Hey everybody, welcome to this edition of the CHP Spotlight Interview Series. Today, we are joined by Dustin Sweeney. He is the co-founder and executive director of Light Horse Track Club. We've worked very closely with them here at our out of our McLean facility. Really been a great club to work with. They work with some really pretty high-level runners. And I'm excited to get a chance, Dustin, to learn a little bit more about you and about the club and all sorts of those things. So, first off, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate the opportunity to sit down with you and chat a little bit about the club and running and all that good stuff.
Heck yeah, man. So I'd love to hear from you. So speaking of Light Horse Track Club, there's a few different track clubs in the DMV, right? We got a big running community here. So I'm curious, what led you to start it, and what need did you feel like you were filling within that community?
Yeah, it's a great question. I've been in this area, the Northern Virginia area, for almost my entire life. And yeah, I live out in Loudoun County now. I've lived in like every county in Northern Virginia, from Frederick County out to Winchester, all the way to Arlington. So I don't know if there's like, some sort of medal they should give people who hit every county and city, but I'm in that club. So being in the Northern Virginia area my entire life, there's never been a competitive running team. You have to go into DC, Arlington for all that. But once you get outside of the city there's really not a good place to get together with other competitive runners and to train alongside them. It's just people train solo. There's not just not a lot of opportunity to push each other to do workouts together, to do long runs together. So I worked for Pacers Running Stores back in the day, and I coached their team, New Balance. And one of my athletes, Andrew Whitaker, and so that was Arlington and DC area. He moved out to Leesburg a few years ago, and he called me up last year, and he was like, "Man, I'm not driving to DC to run with people. He's like, this is awful. Like there, I see all these people on Strava that are the same pace as me. We're all just training separately. Like, do you wanna build a team?" It's like, absolutely. Let's go. So, one with him, other co-founder Kevin Wright, who lives in Haymarket. We started this thing up. So we started last May. This is about a year and a half old now, and it's just grown so fast, which just shows the need for something like this in our community.
Gotcha. I appreciate you sharing that. And then speaking of, like you said, you're needing something like this, who are like who's the best fit for, I guess, your club? Because I know you have a lot of really cool things that are unique about you.
Yeah. We are a community-based team. We're a competitive community-based team. So, number one, you've got to be a runner who's actively racing and who has goals. That's pretty broad strokes there. So that can be someone who is trying to run at that Olympic level, that Olympic trials level, all the way down to someone who has been running for a little while, maybe a year or two, and they've found out that they love it and they want to get better at it. This is the Light Horse Track Club is a home for both of those people. We have both types of those people on our team right now. The people who run at the Olympic trials level, the people who are just like, hey, this is a cool sport. Like, I'm kind of good at it. Like, I'm okay at it. Like, all right, let's see how far this can go. We want to bring all of those people together and building a big team. We've got almost 100 members now, and they really support each other. Not only like from just a team perspective, which I think is the root of team, like supporting each other. That's what a team does. But also like eventually when we build up to that point where we have the Olympic level sort of runner, having a big team financially supports that person. The Olympics, don't pay a lot of money if you're in you know, non-revenue revenue generating sport, as they say in Division 1 athletics, which is running, track and field. So helping people reach their big goals is another long-term objective of Light Horse Track Club. But it's back to your original question of like who this club is for. it's really for anyone who's competitive, has goals, actively racing. And the last criteria, probably the most important one, is to be a good person. Like, we're building a team with a really strong, positive culture. I've coached on a lot of teams, and the ones that always perform best are the ones with sort of culture that stays positive, that's uplifting. People support each other. When you toe a line at a race, and you're like, that it doesn't matter if you win or you pop a hammy and you pull up lame and you DNF. At the end of the race, your team's got your back. They're there to support you, uplift you. It's the opposite of coaching Division 1 level, and a lot of times those can kind of veer into a different level, like kind of very potentially negative or win at all costs. They're uber competitive, so we stay away from that. We're a lot more welcoming, a lot more positive. So far so good. We're like I said, almost 100 people, and been able to keep that culture sort of in that positive realm.
I love that. And I think it's so huge. I mean, a lot of times if you ask that question, I feel like the answer is going to be a lot about the features of the program, right? And what you guys do in terms of like the different types of features of the coaching and how many like, practices you may have and all those things that are of course important. But very rarely do you ever hear about just sort of the culture that you're building and what I thought was really cool is saying, hey, the type of person, not from like a necessarily skill perspective, but from just like a human being perspective that's right for that organization. So everybody sort of feels welcome and is sort of contributing to the benefit of everybody else. I think that's really cool. And so that's certainly a thing I know a lot of people would want to be a part of. And so for anybody watching this today who's maybe has questions about that other side of things, like what it might look like to actually like work with you guys, if somebody comes in and they want to, let's say, hey, I'm a runner, I'm pretty serious, or hey, maybe I'm not so serious. I'm sure the answer is different for each person. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what should somebody expect as far when they come to see you guys in terms of like what they should expect to sort of receive from like a coaching perspective, from like whether it be how many runs are programmed and is there things outside of just running, what I'm making it loose because I know there might be a lot of different pieces for that. So what does that typically look like for maybe like a given client? And I know the answer again is different depending on who that is.
Yeah, it definitely varies on the person, but overall, we've got several practices a week that people can drop into, and we do pull from a fairly wide geographical area. So, again, I'm out here in Loudoun County, so the bulk of our members are Loudoun and Fairfax County based, and we've got some members over in Arlington, down into like the Springfield, even like Stafford area. So we meet in some various locations to kind of get everyone like provide an opportunity for them to run together. Our primary practice where we only have like one location, we want everyone to come out, is our Saturday runs. So those alternate between Herndon and Vienna, Virginia, and we typically get 30. Our high water mark was like 45 people out this summer, and those are typically long run days. Occasionally, people will do a threshold run, tempo run inside of that long run, or be a standalone threshold run or progression run. We just run on the WOD, so we're able to manipulate the distance, the amount of time people spend running together, because you can just do an out and back. You go out and back, and then out and back the other way. So, the WOD. We're super lucky to have that here in our community to use as a resource. We definitely use it a lot. So that's Saturdays. The other days are workout days. That's going to be Wednesday at Herndon High School. We also meet Tuesdays at Yorktown High School, and we have a group in that meet on Wednesday mornings as well at West Springfield High School. So a lot of different opportunities. Come out. We'll have a prescribed workout, and some people will do kind of one-off workouts based. Everything's based on like where you're at and where you want to go. Everyone's at a different spot in their running journey. People have been running for decades. The people have just started up. So you're probably not going to do the same workout as someone who's running 110 miles a week if you're only running 30 miles a week, you know? So we want to make sure that the workout is correct to your level. Um, and on Saturday, our long runs will break up into pace groups, and those are the paces that people start the run at. And within the run, you know, we want to have good communication. You're like, hey, you know, I've got a tempo today. I'm gonna go ahead and drop the hammer in a mile and open up. And someone's like, okay, yeah, I'll join with you or whatever. So good communication based on like what that person's doing for the day. Other runs we have throughout the week, we typically have like a low key run on a Friday. Sundays we will meet. We'll kind of split the group again. We'll meet out in like a Middleburg or an Albee area, or out in like a Burke Lake, Teddy Roosevelt Island, something like that, and we run on soft surfaces. So like C&O Canal, maybe we do that pretty often. And out in Loudon County, it's insane if you know folks watching, listening to this are in closer to the city of DC. You can drive out to Loudon County and get some of the best running in the nation. Like it's insane. Like the amount of dirt roads, back roads there are in Loudon County is unreal, and it's so close to DC. Like that's another reason why we as we're building this club, we're like, man, like you don't need to go out to Colorado. You don't need to go to Flagstaff. Like we got it. We don't have the altitude, obviously, but you know, outside of that, like you can run really. You can train at a high level. You can train on soft surfaces. You can get some great hills in right here in Northern Virginia. So hopefully those roads stay gravel and dirt. I know there's always some community tension there about those roads. But anyway, we head out in those rural Loudoun County areas and do some great runs on Sundays. So anyway, a lot of opportunities for people to drop in for runs. And again, like our abilities are from people at that high level Olympic trials, but all the way down, like we've got pace groups, we've got people running 9 minute miles on Saturdays and Sundays. So you know, there's always an intimidation factor when you come out to a group of like, I'm not fast enough, and everybody thinks they're not fast enough. You know, like even the fastest person be like, I just got to get in shape. And they're like, well, what's your current pace? They're like, well, I'm running like 7 minute miles my easy days. I'm like, you're fine. Like you're gonna be fine. You fit right in. Like you're good. It's like, well, you know, I want to get back. I want to run. And it's like it's like just come out. Like just come out and join us for a run. Like you will get into shape over time. So I always encourage people, if you're interested in joining us for a run, drop us a line on Instagram. Find our website. There's a contact form there, lighthorsetrackclub.com or Lighthorse Track Club on Instagram. Drop us a DM or fill out a form. One of the first steps, like I usually have a conversation with people kind of before they get started, just like kind of get the lay of the land of where you're at, again, like what your goals are, so we know where you fit in with the team.
I love that. No, I love that. I think that's great. And one thing too, I definitely want to make sure I highlight too, because I know I've had the chance and it's been awesome getting a chance to work with some of your runners, is that they all seem to get some level of customization in terms of recommendations, programming, if you will, and all that. And so, like, because like I know I even have a client right now who I know Dustin works with you and talks about, oh, Dustin wanted me to do this week or something like that week. And it's kind of a lot of people I know also are looking for that and need that. So I always want to mention that, just that it's a group doesn't also mean you don't get that personalization as well. So that's always one thing I always want to mention. And one question I love to ask to people in the running community is that is around one of the challenges I often see comes up with running, almost because of the low barrier to entry that the sport is, which I think is great,
Mm.
right? Because one of the greatest benefits is, you can just walk out your door, throw on your running shoes, and theoretically go. You don't have to join a gym or anything like that. So is it really just that simple as just like putting on your shoes, going out the door? And what other things, if you're like an avid runner, do you need to implement into your training to really optimize your performance that maybe we don't otherwise think of?
Yeah, distance running is awesome because it's so accessible.
Yep.
It's incredibly accessible, and that's why it's the most has the highest participation rates of any of any activity for adults. Like more people run than and play basketball, as adults. It's kind of was a duh sort of moment, like, of course, but it's important to say, like, a lot of people run, a lot of people participate in the activity of running. And it is really simple, and it's important that we don't really overcomplicate running. Like, it's one foot in front of another for a long amount of time, and to boil it down to that simplicity. But in terms of running for performance and getting the most out of yourself, it's really about consistency. Um, Running is a very unique endurance sport because we can't run for that long compared to like biking or swimming. I mean, they can just, sometimes it seems like people can just swim all day if they had enough calories in their body. Like, it's insane. We can't run for that long. I mean, the highest mileage people in the world are only running 2 hours a day. Like, that's it. That's kind of our limit. Like, we can't really do more than that. So you get a big bang for your buck. Like, you go out for a 30-minute run, and you're doing a ton of great stuff for your body. So you talk about, again, like, getting the most out of realizing your potential. Consistency is huge. You got to get out and run. You got to run more days than you don't. That starts at 4 days a week. But it really, like, honestly, at the end of the day, you can run 7 days a week. You don't really need days off. Like, you can get yourself to a point where you can run every day in and day out. That being said, a day off occasionally is fine. You don't have to run every single day, but you can manipulate your intensity in such a way that an easy day, if you keep it truly at a recovery pace, is more beneficial than taking a day completely off from running. Um, Cross training is another way to stay fit on those recovery days. But so consistency is really important. The other side of it is your aerobic capacity. That's the limiting factor for most people, is developing that aerobic capacity, which you can build and build and build and build. Like, you can just grow it almost infinitely. Like, you can just keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Your physiological limitations is your speed. Like, you can kind of only run as fast as you can run. You can fine tune it a little bit, but is a reason why you go to a track team, and the distance runners, like, they know they're distance runners a lot of times. They're like, okay, yeah, I'm not a 100-meter sprinter. I'm over here with these milers and 2 milers, whatever. So that the limiting factor is speed, which you can, again, fine tune, but it's really about the consistency and building up your aerobic capacity. So that means just running mileage. Like, you got to increase your miles slowly. I'm a big fan of actually holding mileage for a while. So, typical American training system, you'll see, like, there's all these magic numbers, rules of thumbs, like, oh, increase your mileage by 10% a week. It's like, well, if you do that infinitely, like, running is a certain amount of mileage. So it's much better to actually hold your mileage for, a month, 2 months, 6 months. Like, get your body fully adjusted to a mileage range before you have that increase. The big thing I talk about a lot is, like, do the least amount of work that will make you better. So if you can improve off 30 miles a week, just run 30 miles a week. Don't make it more complicated than it needs to be. Like, you don't need to run 100 miles a week. If you can get better off 30 miles a week, just run 30 miles a week until you start to bump into your ceiling a little bit. You're like, okay, yeah, let me go to 40. And guess what? You'll get better running 40 miles a week. Like, it's pretty amazing. So by limiting yourself, or asking yourself that question, like, what do I actually need to do to get better? And a lot of times it's running every day or close to it, and actually probably running a little bit less mileage than you think you need to. There's a lot of people running 60, 70 miles is like this, like, magic number that a lot of people run, but they can get better running 50 miles a week, and they can stay healthy. That's another part that I should mention, is staying healthy. That's probably, that goes right in hand with consistency, which is where you come in, Zach. Like,
Sure.
keeping our folks healthy and consistent. And with running, that doesn't mean like you're throwing around big weights. You're stacking up the squat rack, and you're doing max reps. It's being consistent with your strength and conditioning, and flexibility, mobility. Like, all of that stuff to keep you healthy so you can stay consistent, so you can build that aerobic engine.
I love that. Yeah, that's so many great nuggets there, and you can sort of see all these connection points of where all how all these things matter. And I really like the concept of just minimum. I almost think of it like minimum viable dose. Like, what is the minimum dose
Okay.
you need to create your result? Which is exactly how we try to approach things, even from a rehab standpoint. Is like, okay, what's the least amount of stuff somebody has to do to be able to get the result they're looking for? Because we want to, you're right, we want to make it as simple as possible. Life is complicated enough. We want to try to see, hey, what can we do to make things simplify some stuff? So, there's so many cool things, and I know I want to make sure I save some time to talk about a gala you have coming up. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So we are a nonprofit, and as a nonprofit, we have to fundraise. So here we go. We're venturing into fundraising for the first time as a nonprofit, and so we have our Light Horse Track Club Gala this January, January 25th in Albany, Virginia, and the other side of Light Horse that we haven't really talked about a whole lot, Zach, is the event side. So there's two parts of Light Horse: the team side, which has grown really rapidly. We're booming on that. And equally as important as the events we put on. The first one we did was this past May at George Mason University. We did a track meet called Down the Stretch Track Fest. And so what we're looking to do with our events is kind of bring the sport of distance running to our community. Um, Distance, like when you think of the sport of track and field, the sport of running, it's often disconnected from the activity. So we're talking a lot about like, hey, it's easy to get outside and just run, easy to pop into a local 5K, and you're participating in the activity of running. But are you a fan of the sport? Like, do you follow the sport? And a lot of times people are like, no, I have no idea. Like, Chicago, like the sport of running is so unique. Like the Chicago Marathon just happened, and if you ran in that, you ran in the same race as a world record holder. Like, first woman to break 2 hours and 10 minutes in the marathon, which is insane. Like, you were in that race, you were there. Like, you're not gonna, go play a pickup basketball game and LeBron James is just chilling, like dunking. Like, that's not gonna happen. Like, absolutely not. But if you ask most people who play pickup basketball, do they follow basketball? Yeah, absolutely they do. But people who run a local 5K, do they follow running closely? Maybe, maybe not. So bringing that sport to our community and showcasing how amazing it is, how like these people live here, they live in our community, but also bringing people from around the nation to the DC metro area. So we're raising money for our events. This past spring, like I said, we did our first track meet. We sold out. We had over 250 runners show up and over 400 paying spectators, which you don't hear a lot in the track world. And so it's like, yeah, you pay to go to a high school football game. You can pay to go to come to a professional track meet. It's the way I look at it. So it's time we treat the sport like a sport.
Yeah.
And that meet, we welcomed Alan Webb there. We ran the mile and we named it after him, the Webb Mile. It was really cool to have him there. We had a guy come down from Canada. He ran 4:01 the mile. He almost broke the 4-minute barrier. Susanna Sullivan ran 15:40 in the 5K and smashed the George Mason facility record. So some really cool performances. And the way we're building our events is again a little bit unique in the running world, where we're always going to have a community part and then a professional elite part, where we'll have community events. This track meet again, we had races of the 5K and mile on the track, and we that was followed by the professional elite races at night. So people got to participate here and watch some amazing track and field. Um, so we're doing more of that. We're going to expand to 2, maybe 3 track meets. We're going to do a cross country meet next year, following that similar format of that community race, but also welcome in some faster professional runners. So to help fund all of these amazing events, help fund some of our top tier athletes who again are looking to go to the Olympic level. We're raising funds via our gala. So you can go to lighthorsetrackclub.com to find more information about that. We have individual giving, and we'll have thank you gifts. So if you give $100 up to $1,000, and you'll get something to say, hey, thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting local distance running, building our community. If you own a business or work in a local company organization, there are ways for you to get involved as well. Sponsor Light Horse Track Club, sponsor our events. Pop up at our events. We are partnering with Girls in the Run for our gala, so they are a beneficiary as well. So we will give 5% of our proceeds back to Girls in the Run. So you'll see Light Horse pop up at some of the Girls in the Run events, and likewise they'll pop up as some of ours. I'm familiar with Girls in the Run. They're a nationwide organization with a big local footprint, and they specialize in taking girls age or grades 3 through 8 and having them run and kind of inspiring them, giving them tools to become young women and everything. So it's a really cool organization. So that's another thing we're looking to do is kind of continue to build our community, and support other companies and organizations that are like-minded.
That's awesome, Dustin. I really appreciate you sharing that. It's really cool. And so what I'm going to do with this, below this interview, so if you're watching this most likely on YouTube or one of our newsletters or whatever the case is, just take a look below. You'll see the link to Light Horse's website. We can find out more about them as a club, obviously about the gala and any events that they have going on. But yeah, really highly recommend them. They've been a real pleasure to work with, and of course, you can find them also on Instagram as well. So make sure to give a look there. I'll put a link to that at the same time. So with all that being said, Dustin, man, I really appreciate jumping on here today. You guys are doing such great work, and I'm really, really glad to have a chance to share this with everybody.
Absolutely, Zach. Thank you for the opportunity. This is my first interview as executive director of the Light Horse Track Club. So, if you've made it this far, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Yeah, if you're interested in learning more about us, just head to lighthorsetrackclub.com, find us on Instagram. We're really excited. Thank you again, Zach, for this opportunity. We're just so excited to be a part of this community, to continue to foster the sport of distance running, to grow our club, grow our events. So check us out, come support us. You see our races, give us a shout out. We're in the white and green at your local races. So and join us for a run if you're interested in coming out for a run.
Thanks so much, Justin. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, Zach.